Hey guys, what is going on? I hope you all are doing well today. Elliot here and welcome back to The Fragrance Well. So my dad mentioned in response to one of my Instagram posts not too long ago that, he is a Burberry Touch guy. He's gonna wear that for everything, even though he does have a couple of other options. He is a Burberry Touch guy through and through, and that just made me think about a subject matter to do for a video. Basically, signature scents that are what I like to call one and done. In other words, it's one fragrance that you wear all year round, all the time, for everything, doesn't matter what it is. We're talking about the true meaning of a signature scent here, where it's like, hey, that's all that guy ever smells like. Granted, I'm the kind of guy, being a fragrance enthusiast, that is never going to do this in real life, but that doesn't mean I can't categorize some fragrances I have as ones that I would be okay with using as a one and done fragrance, something I would just wear all the time, buy it, use it up, buy it again. All right, so we got 10 of them that I'm gonna present for this subject matter for today, so let's go ahead and get it started. But before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please hit that bell icon and enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into it. So first up, coming from the house of Hermes, we have got H24 Eau de Parfum. Hermes H24 Eau de Parfum. Honestly, considering the house of Hermes, they got a lot of fragrances I wouldn't mind putting onto a list like this. So this one in particular, think slightly metallic, very, very fresh, bit of a yellow floral feel, kind of more of that somewhat kind of yellow fruity smell. That's kind of the best way I like to describe it. This also has a little bit of a metallic green feel to it. Rather unique overall. I think a great improvement over the H24 Eau de Toilette. Honestly, I like this better than the latest one that came out as well. I think this is just a do-it-all fragrance. There's no scenario where I wouldn't mind wearing this scent. And with all these fragrances, let me just kind of point this out. While it may not always be the best scent you could wear for something, if it's a fragrance that just can kind of work for anything, it doesn't really matter. Especially if you feel comfortable wearing it, feel confident wearing it. And if I consider the situation where I would need it the most, kind of my just day-to-day activities, this fragrance works for that. So that's why it's gonna make this list. Once again, from the house of Hermes, this is H24 Eau de Parfum. Next one's coming from the house of Get Right Fragrances. This is Clean Team Signature. Get Right Fragrances, Clean Team Signature. So this one here, if you work in an office, this is a great scent. It has that kind of fresh and clean, somewhat soapy vibe that is really great for the office, but also has a little bit of opulence about it, very gentlemanly, very modern smelling. It's a little bit soapy in a floral sense, kind of a collection of florals and aromatics. I think there's some lavender in here. I think there's some rose. There may be some iris. I can't quite remember exactly what the note breakdown is. There's kind of a clean woodiness to it, a clean woody base, just a little bit of sweetness to balance it out. This is an excellent fragrance. Anytime I've worn this, it lasts all day long. So if you work long days or you're just typically doing things for long days, this one will last. While it is good for that office environment, you can pretty much wear this fragrance for just about anything. Anything that has you smelling clean and fresh is always gonna work, in my opinion. Once again, from the house of Get Right Fragrances, this is Clean Team Signature. Next up, coming from the house of Louis Vuitton, it's LV Lovers. Louis Vuitton LV Lovers. And shout out to this house as well. I also think they have a number of offerings that could fit into a list like this. First one that comes to mind is gonna be Imagination. Just chose to go with this one since it is a newer release. Smells kind of fresh, but overall very woody, kind of a clean and creamy woody combination of sandalwood and cedarwood. Yes, some people are gonna compare it to Santal 33. It has that kind of characteristic in there, but it's definitely its own thing. A little bit of a kind of spicy, bitter green feeling coming from galbanum. There's a very fresh and open spice coming from ginger with this fragrance. Simple fragrance overall, but blended masterfully. And most importantly, if it's gonna be a one and done fragrance, gotta be something you can use for a variety of situations. This one definitely covers that bill. Once again, from the house of Louis Vuitton, it's LV Lovers. Next one's coming from the house of Amouage. We've got Beach Hut Man. Amouage Beach Hut Man. Now, in all fairness, could be a tough one for the list because Beach Hut can be a little bit hard to find sometimes, but it's still one I just kind of had to include for myself. personally. This one is kind of fougere adjacent. It doesn't necessarily have the characteristics of a fougere, but it kind of behaves like one. So this is a spicy mint, very bitter green fragrance. It's very green overall, has a spicy feel, nice touch of mint, just a dash of kind of resinous, gooey like sweetness to kind of bring it all together. Got some myrrh in here as well, which I really love in fragrances. And if you are a fan of that fougere style, somewhat barbershoppy style of fragrance, but maybe want something just a little bit outside of it, but it can kind of work the same way, that's what this fragrance does here. And I mentioned, that this can be hard to find, but this is a very powerful fragrance, one that you don't need to spray a lot, in my opinion, in most occasions. So I would say you probably won't run through the bottle that quickly. Once again, from the House of Amouage, this is Beach Hut Man. Next one's coming from the House of Jizada. This is Ambassador. Jizada Ambassador. So I've given this some wear, a couple of wears over the last week or so. As you guys know, this fragrance was sent to me by the house and I did a first impressions video on it, but I've had it on skin now and I have a better picture overall of what this is, and I think this is a great signature scent fragrance. Kind of gonna give you, I would say, fruity Sauvage vibes. That's kind of the closest comparison I can give it, but it does do its own thing. It does have a combination of lavender and spice. That's kind of what most readily gives you the Sauvage characteristic, but there's fruitiness off of the top of it, so you could say it's a little bit more playful, but it still has this gentlemanly element to it that can kind of work for anything. I wore it on a hot day and actually it was not too much, even though it does have a strong woody base mixing with that spice. As I was wearing it, I just kept thinking, like, I really can see this as a signature scent, so that's why it is on the list here today. And yes, while it does kind of give those Sauvage vibes, it definitely walks its own lane. So once again, from the House of Jizada, this is Ambassador. All right, next up, coming from the House of Brioni, it's Brioni Eau de Parfum. Brioni Eau de Parfum. So with this one, if you like violet, this is almost a must-have in my opinion. Great violet fragrance, very gentlemanly, pretty much can work really well if you're dressing up on a regular basis. Brioni being a suit maker, that makes sense. But yeah, lots of violet in here, a little bit of a fruitiness. It almost smells to me like the fruitiness is based off of like an apple that has been sliced open and has been sitting out for a while. It's turned brown, it's dried out a little bit, but it still has a fruity aroma. Doesn't smell rotten or anything like that. That's how I like to experience, should I say that's the experience I get from the fruitiness in this fragrance. A lot of that ozonic, open, watery feel that you get from violet a lot of times. And then there's a good amount of musk in this as well. This is a very elegant fragrance in my opinion. Really great for a signature scent if you're looking for something that not a lot of people are gonna wear and you're a fan of violet. Once again, from the House of Brioni, this is Brioni Eau de Parfum. Next one is coming from the House of Mancera. It's Vetiver Sensuel. Mancera Vetiver Sensuel. Most would suggest Cedrat Boisé from this house kind of being the one that you can use for anything. While I don't necessarily disagree, I would suggest Vetiver Sensuel. You're talking beautiful collection of watery and juicy citrus mixing with a little bit of a mint accord, a little bit of floral touch to it, and this awesome, super clean, grassy vetiver. You're gonna smell fresh, you're gonna smell clean, and this stuff is just amazing in my opinion. Perfect for the work environment, and that's any work environment in my opinion as well. And it just works for pretty much everything else. It's an easy go-to fragrance that smells great. And also for me personally, I get plenty of longevity out of this fragrance, so if you got long days, this one does work for that in my opinion. Once again, from the House of Mancera, this is Vetiver Sensuel. Next one's coming from the House of Cartier. This is Declaration d'un Soir. Cartier Declaration d'un Soir. So with this one here, going a little bit different in that this is a spicy rose fragrance. Haven't sprayed it in a while, so the atomizer is dry. Definitely a very elegant smell here. Definitely something where if you like a little bit of a cumin vibe, this might be worth working out. If you like rose, certainly, but you do kind of have to like cumin-like spice. That is kind of the caveat with this one, but very elegant fragrance here. Again, if you're a little bit more dressed up more frequently or a little bit more professional in your appearance on a day-to-day basis, this is one worth considering. So again, spicy rose with really dried woods, mainly kind of a cedar wood type of feel. There is a fresh element to it. For me, the rose is more of that kind of fresh, lemony kind of rose with just a little bit of a green feel to it. I think this fragrance is very elegant. And you know what? House of Cartier, another one where concerning this kind of category, they have a lot of fragrances that I think can work as a one and done fragrance. Side note with this one also though, it can be a little bit hard to find, so replenishing it could be kind of tough, but I wanted to include it on the list anyway just because I think it's a really good one. Once again, from the House of Cartier, this is Declaration d'un Soir. All right, next one's coming from the House of Xerjoff. This is 40 knots. Xerjoff 40 knots. So with this one, going a little bit more in that ambery direction. Amber overall, I would say can be kind of tough being a scent profile that would work all year, you know, depending on where you live. But what I like about this one is it is ambery, but it has this kind of fresh sea breeze kind of vibe. So I think it makes it a little bit more versatile. It is rather sweet, but I think this is a scent that has a lot of versatility, even though when you smell it, you may not necessarily think of it, but it's very pleasant. I think this is a fragrance you can get a lot of utility out of, not one that needs a lot of sprays in my opinion. Great compliment getter also in my opinion. Smells just great all the way through the wear. It's just meant to be pleasant, relatively simple, but also unique. A little bit of an aquatic touch, but for me, overall more ambery and sweet with a kind of sea breeze freshness to it. Once again, from the House of Xerjoff, this is 40 knots. All right, and last but not least, coming from the House of Arabian Oud, this is Arabian Knight. Arabian Oud, Arabian Knight. Just a quick thing on the House of Arabian Oud. I would say this is not even the best fragrance for a list like this, but it is the best one that I have. They have got some great, just kind of wear it for whatever, easy to wear fragrances. I just need to add them to my collection. But we're gonna talk about Arabian Knight because it is a good one as well. So this one is also a rose fragrance, but think cinnamon mixed with a little bit of lemongrass, and I love that lemongrass accord in this. Cinnamon, rose, and very dried cedar wood. Relatively simple fragrance, does have I think some vanilla. It is does have an underlying sweetness to it, but I just think this fragrance is gorgeous. Again, you can pretty much use it for everything. Does kind of have a little bit of that Middle Eastern feel. I think this is a great office scent that can span different disciplines, if you will. You can certainly use this for a number of situations and the fragrance will work just fine because it just smells so pleasant. Once again, from the House of Arabian Oud, this is Arabian Knight. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this video. 10 fragrances that I would consider one and dones. Wear them all the time, all year, for everything. Let me know down in the comments below if you were gonna wear a fragrance for an entire year, and I know us as collectors, this can be a hard thing to do. Put some of those fragrances down in the comments below. Really looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say. So, thanks again for watching all the way into the end. Really do appreciate you guys. Please remember to be well and smell well, and I'll see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.